Halls of Beelzebub we go. Are you enjoying your evolution, your deep and profound spiritual growth? Is it going well? Is it going just like you had ever hoped? Because that's what I'm going to discuss. I'm going to discuss what supposedly is our true purpose here, or living life in alignment with our real self, which seems to be extraordinarily challenging, especially for some people, that have seemingly no clues whatsoever, nothing at all, like clues from our past lives, for example, that could have helped us along the way. At the very most, all we get from past lives is maybe subtle hints, intuitions, maybe fears, maybe addictions, maybe, if anything, we probably take on negative attributes from past lives rather than things that would actually help us avoid that and grow out of that, which I think is pretty interesting. And maybe that's why all those folks throughout history were just following orders. You see, they're just following orders. Atrocity after atrocity after atrocity. But that does make me wonder. Do you ever wonder why they only tell us, if you learn history, primarily what you're going to hear about is war and atrocities? And I think that's by design, because I actually think other things went on throughout history that were not all bad. And this is coming from Mr. Negative Nancy himself. I know I've grown pretty dark, guys. I'm not happy about it either. I didn't think I would be in this deep dark hole. I don't want to be in it. Like there's actually people, like friends of mine, that think that I want to be in this deep dark hole. I would not wish this upon my worst enemy. It is an absolutely despicable state to be in. So no, I don't want it at all. And nothing seems to work. But as I was saying, that's the primary focus. Why is that? Why is it that when you learn in school, or even online, or through your peers, your family, you learn about history's atrocities? I think I know the reason why. Because they plant that seed into your mind so that the next generation can continue that pattern. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's going to do the opposite. Hey, what's up, Rill? My best friend on the internet, Danny. You know, it's going to do the opposite because you're planting that seed in people's minds. On one hand, yes, they know about them, but subconsciously, it's actually going to cause the same repetitive patterns to continue if you obsessively keep talking about it for decades. And I don't believe everything that we were told, not even close. So obviously, this includes what I call the Crystal Garden and Atlantis, Lemuria, which are all real, and many other civilizations that exist that they never tell us about. This was all real stuff, and they weren't all violent lunatics. The violent lunatics is what they want us to focus on, because they've embedded that seed so deeply into our minds that I think that collectively, subconsciously, that's truly who we believe we are as a species. And that's just so unbearably sad. I I don't even have words for it. It's essentially one giant psyop, is what it is. It's one giant collective psyop. But I'm getting off topic a little bit here. So I watched this video on Love Covered Life. You know, that lady, I've been on her show before talking about my near-death experience. And she had a guest on who had a very detailed NDE. I shared this video in the community posts. And he really got into detail about his past lives. Like more than almost anybody I've ever heard. And there's some interesting things that I noticed that I wanted to bring up. First of all, he said that the first life he was shown was him being a healer, a natural healer, born in Switzerland in the 1700s. And he lived a very majestic life, providing service to people, healing people, even opening, the first hospital in that region or whatever. It was, the spirit guide told him that this is an example of what happens when you live your life closest to who you truly are. And that bothers me because why be subjected to the test to begin with? Why can't we just be who we truly are and not have to worry about karma or cosmic debt or wronging somebody or going out of alignment of your true nature? Like, what is this overly complicated fluff when we do, on an intuitive level, on a deeper level, we do want to be who we truly are, but this place feels like it's almost impossible to express who you truly are when you're just grinding indefinitely to the bone, day in, day out, with no answers to anything, no clues from your spirit guides. It's just very strange to me that I've had all these experiences, all these dreams and out-of-body experiences, but I've never had a recollection except for maybe my NDE where I met a spirit guide or where I remembered a past life. I have no recollection of any past life whatsoever. And I can understand that to a degree. Real life is a movie reel. It's not real at all. We live in upside down world, codes embedded in our words to speak. Yes. New Age indoctrination channel. Yeah. She's denying the hell around pleasant. Well, look, I'm still open to all possibilities. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but I do think it would be kind of silly if we fully knew our past lives in this incarnation. I can kind of see that would make the game too easy. Like, there needs to be some kind of element of surprise, I suppose, but there's like not even the slightest clue for most people. At least at the very minimum, have like some kind of flash memory or intuitively things that would stop you doing something you shouldn't be doing. But those things just don't seem to happen for most people. I mean, as far as past lives go, it seems that only young children on occasion have memories of these things. I've never experienced benevolent entities, only malevolent ones. Yeah, I understand what you mean. But going back to the story of this guy, So yeah, he lived that fantastic life. Died at an old age, was married, healed people, and then the next life was the polar opposite of that. So, and I understand there shouldn't necessarily be a linear progression of things, especially in eternity. There is nothing linear. But his next life, he was a scammer and a banker living in New York City, right and when the stock exchange opened, like in 1822, and he essentially became a loan shark and loaned these families loans with very high interest rates that they weren't able to pay back, which ended up breaking the families apart and kids living on the streets and so on and so forth. He caused poverty to people. And he was really horrified by this life. He basically ended up in prison where he was shanked to death in the prison. And then he was buried in an unmarked grave. He wanted to emphasize that. So the following life, it was a life of atonement. So he tried to reconcile those things he did. Well, if he just lived this fantastic life as a healer, why is it that he wasn't able to get any information, any subconscious clues whatsoever about that life as a healer into that life when he became a scammer? I mean, perhaps if he had some sort of transference of at least the energetic quality of that life without even necessarily having visual information, that might have guided him out of that scamming life. But no, that didn't happen, did it? So now he has to atone for it. From healer to loan shark, so much for spiritual growth. Mostly circumstances then. I listened to that guy's story and figured we can just look up any records of a stockbroker in the 1800s being sent to Sing Sing prison. He claims that, yeah, he claims that there are. He claims that there is this island off of Long Island Sound where he was buried and that grave is still there. He was saying stuff like that. I mean, I don't have any reason not to believe him. He does seem very sincere. I think his experience was real. Where is this guy? Yes, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but anyway, his next life was Spanish flu, 1919, and everyone was dying, millions around the world, because that's a loving thing to do, like always, very loving. And he died at 17 of the Spanish flu. That was it. That was all he saw of that life, and it wasn't enough. He was informed that it was not enough to atone for his behavior as a scammer. So that's when he came to this current life he's living, which he described as pretty shitty. This current life, he experienced a lot of bullying and a lot of, negative things that happened to him. And he fully accepts it, fully thinks of it as a completely normal thing. These would not be digital. So yeah, I mean, do you guys have any memory of a past life? Anything at all? And you would know it if it's an actual past life. You would know it because it would be like a deep, powerful knowing. It wouldn't be just like a thought you had. It would be on a very deep subconscious level that information would come through. Anyway, it is upsetting. I think it would have been beneficial if we were actually trying to grow as a race to have some kind of clues, some kind of guidance. We're just absolutely thrown to the wolves. I'm 37 and I'm as lost as I've ever been. Like everything feels like it's wrong. Like the choices don't feel right. I don't know how to explain it. Like I know I worded that kind of dumb. But what I'm trying to say is that I certainly don't feel like I'm living the path of my highest potential. And not only am I not living the path of my highest potential, I don't have even the slightest clue of what that is and what that's supposed to look like. My son is a shining light in all of that, though. He's a light in the darkness, I can tell you that. I had an intuitive feeling that I was a Chicago mobster in the past life due to some dreams. I had a strong feeling when I visited Chicago that I was connected to that city deeply. I actually really like that city. I've been there a few times. It's actually really pretty. In the media, people talk crap about it, but it's not. It's really beautiful, even by Mandela World standards. It's been pouring rain here, guys. Like, I mean, downpours for days and days and days, like to the point where it's starting to flood all over the place. I mean, it's like this never-ending storm going on here, and it's been quite an adventure at work as a result. My grandpa told me I remembered being old man before I forgot as I grew up. Yeah, we forget. But I can tell you that even when I was a child, as far as I can recall, even as a child, I can't quantify any past life. Like, I do have, like, connections to things. Like, I feel like there's a few places around the world that I feel like I have a connection to. And one of them is Rome. So ancient Rome definitely builds something deep in my soul, something very deep and intuitive. Ancient Rome and ancient Greece, and as random as this is, the country of Nigeria. When I was a kid, I, for some reason, over a period for like a year or two, was obsessed with Nigeria and Ghana and West Africa in general, and I would obsessively research that culture and those places with not really knowing why. I have recurring nightmares as a 4-year-old being gassed. This life I was born with a genetic lung issue. So, you know, that kind of sounds like polio, Cal-Bell, which was another beautiful, loving thing. I don't know if you guys remember this, but when I first got married, the first job I took was that rain is crazy. I mean, it's like a waterfall. I used to like rain. It used to, kind of like everything else, it gave you life force energy. Like that scent of the rain was empowering. It felt like something special, like the old sun on your face. I had that with rain too. Not anymore. It does absolutely nothing. It's like dead. Nothing there. Yeah, I even forgot that I ever said, or I remembered. So yeah, speaking of polio, so that in 2011 I worked for a guy who had polio when he was younger, and he had arms that didn't function. They just kind of flailed around. And if anything, this person was an example of living to his highest potential because he was incredible. I was a caregiver for him, and he spoke Russian fluently despite being American. He was an Orthodox priest. He was one of only like 5 people in the US that had a driver's license to drive with his feet. Like, I literally drove with him, and he drove with his feet, and he drove better than almost every driver, which, by the way, nowadays they're just absolute lunatics out there. It's just becoming normal to see road rage. It's absolute insanity what drivers are doing out there. He was a great guy. He's since died. He was able to write with his feet. Very intelligent, very talented, very educated. You are right. The forest barely has that mossy, grassy smell anymore. No, not at all. And that might not necessarily be the Mandela effect. I think geoengineering has something to do with that too, like poisoning the skies. But it's gone. It's gone. That empowering life force is gone. For me. I know there's some lucky people out there that you're in my audience where you feel fully alive and fully at peace, and that's great. I'm very happy for you. Doing a few searches using different keywords for trials and stockbrokers going to prison, Sing Sing only could find one stockbroker to send to Sing Sing, but that was in 1931, almost 100 years later. Interesting. So he said it was Sing Sing that he went to? Okay. Okay, very interesting. Now that kind of makes me a little bit skeptical of his story, but still, what if it was another timeline of Earth he was observing? What if he was playing a different game than us? I don't freaking know. Vaccines are safe and effective. The polio inoculation does no harm. Hell nah, my aliveness peaked at childhood. Yeah, it did. You're right. It did. I think my absolute peak was like 15, where I was really thrilled. I had a lot of like zest for life. And then after that, I started slowly going downhill with periods of re-enlivening in the middle of all that. Records from the 1800s might be absent from the internet. It's possible you might have to go to a New York City library and actually, like the Central Library in Manhattan, and like deeply look at physical records. I think that's possible, because I imagine that, yeah, not necessarily all the records remain from the 1830s, or at least that we know about. The only thing they seem to show us is records of atrocities and horrific things. I do think more things were going on in the past. I do. I really just don't think it was all bloodshed at war, but I don't know. Maybe it is that terrible. Are you be able to hide, mask your misery from your son, or is it rubbing off on him? No, I do. I mean, I do. Like, I'm teaching him guitar, for example. We play sports together. You know, we go on bike rides. We play basketball together. I try to be a good influence for sure. For sure. I mean, it is kind of hard not to show it. But again, it's just... Kids should know. Vril has a point. New York Times are hard to get records before 1850s. Might be out of bounds for finding. Kids should know life sucks bit by bit, so they are not shocked by it. LOL. What the fuck? So I know I have no kids. Okay, I gotta go. Thanks. I gotta go as well. I do activities with my daughter, but she can definitely feel my depression. Yeah. But he's, they're still kids. That's the thing. They still have that spark. So, I mean, at least have hope in that. Anyway, in conclusion, the main thing I want to ask is why? Why can't we know more about our past lives? Why can't that information come through more easily? Why is it blocked? I mean, why is it deliberately suppressed? Do we do it? Do we suppress it ourselves? What's going on here? Because I think knowing at least something would be beneficial to us. At least something. Seems like we're mind wiped going out. So no, we're not here to learn and grow. Well, okay, before I go, you just brought up a good point. Again, what did I say in the community posts? Well, what are your options in playing this game? Primarily, at least from what we know from history, you can either be a slave or a warrior. Sure as hell not going to be a king or a queen. The chances of that are minuscule. Or a noble even. Perhaps 95% of what your options are to be a slave. To be a slave now. To be a slave thousands of years ago. So what is there to learn? Like, what's the learning experience there? I mean, sure, you can say there's different cultures and languages and customs and things like that. Yeah, that's true. But fundamentally, it's all kind of gobbled into the same sort of category. So how many times do you have to be a serf or a warrior to get the picture? Like, what's the learning process? Like, yeah, it doesn't. I don't get it. I'm looking forward. I don't want any memory of this lifetime. We are devolving and degrading, not growing. That's what it seems like. It very much seems that way. People have just completely transformed. They are unrecognizable. Total zombies, total robots. They seem like they're incapable of communication. Like they can only do like animalistic grunts. Like they look at you like a deer in the headlights. It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre.